Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Jesse Heller, the Marketing Director at Fabius Business Systems Group, and you are attending our webinar showing off our QuickBooks integration for SugarCRM. Presenting today is Jake Butikoffer. He's our account executive here at Fabius Business Systems Group, and he's going to be taking us through the presentation. Any questions you might have throughout today's webinar, please drop them in the chat box, and we'll get to them as they come in. So with that, Jake, why don't you take it away?
Great. Thanks, Jesse. Just kind of go over the agenda for the webinar, talk a little bit about Fabius Business Systems Group and what we can provide, go over the QuickBooks integration in terms of, the high-level summary of what it does and, what's new with the integration, and then we'll go into a live demo and we'll finish it off with Q&A. As we go through this, feel free to enter in questions into the chat box, and if they're at a point in the place to address those, we'll address them live, or we can also do it towards the end as well. So just a little bit about us. So Fabius, we were ranked the #1 sugar partner in 2016 last year at SugarCon. We have about 30 plus employees, half of them based in SoCal. The rest are all across the country. We have about 500 or so clients. We do a lot of development. We do implementations of sugar as well as ERP implementations. Currently, most our programming staff is in-house in the States, and we have offices in LA, Austin, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. We also do marketing automation with Act On as well, and that's a great offering. We've been finding that the two integrated can provide quite a bit of value. So that's a little bit about us. Here are some of the product offerings that we have on the SugarCRM ecosystem. We support the Act On integration. We also do the document management component of it as it relates to Box and Dropbox. We have a constant contact integration. Like I said, we do ERP consulting, so we have a Sage 100 integration. We have an Intact integration, a NetSuite integration, and QuickBooks as well. I noticed that there's some on this webinar that do have the integration and others that don't. We can also, it's very common for small businesses to also outgrow QuickBooks as well. So if you're at the point where, you're having some growing pains with QuickBooks, we could also help you evaluate one of the other ERP products as well. That's more, designed for larger implementations as well. A little bit about the QuickBooks integration. We have the most comprehensive and feature-rich integration on the market. We have field mapping built directly into the integration. We're the only offering out there that does that. We synchronize customers, inventory items, invoice history, sales orders between both platforms. Some of the key benefits are it eliminates double entry of customers and sales orders in CRM and accounting software. So we had some clients that are doing quotes inside of the CRM, and then when they're ready to invoice or produce a sales order, they have to then do double entry into the accounting system, and this allows you to just do the quotes directly in the CRM, and then just by flipping the switch or changing a field status, you can automatically send it over to the accounting system. And also get live access to inventory and live access to invoice history as well. Here's just a few things that are new. We're syncing vendors from QuickBooks to Sugar, syncing purchase orders from QuickBooks to Sugar, syncing invoices from Sugar to QuickBooks, as well as deposit amounts from Sugar to quotes to QuickBooks invoices. And you can create Sugar product categories from QuickBooks product categories as well. We've added a new transaction logging feature to help audit sync results. So if something happens in QuickBooks, say an invoice was produced and for some reason it didn't sync over into Sugar, there'd be an audit log that would give you those synchronization results as well. Now we'll go ahead and jump into the live demo. Jesse, is there any preliminary questions before we get started?
There's no questions yet, but just so everyone knows, in the handout section of GoToWebinar in your webinar panel, I dropped in a couple of resources for you to download. One is a integration matrix showing, some of the features that Jake's going to be talking about today, as well as just an overall product sheet. So make sure you grab that.
Great. So here is, first I'll just start off by showing the back end of the integration. So this is, so when you get the QuickBooks integration, you'll install a package that installs a bunch of modules inside of Sugar. It will install this interface here that allows you to connect your QuickBooks to your Sugar CRM. We have the user manual directly on here, which is the lengthy operating manual. It gives you access to all the different components of the integration. This allows you here to configure the integration, so you can determine which system you want to be the master. And then you can also determine which syncs that you want to put in place. So you have control over your accounting system, and you can control which one is the master. So if you don't want people to update billing addresses in the CRM, you can make QuickBooks the master. As you can see here are the main syncs that we have. So we have customers, QuickBooks customers and accounts. Vendors can sync to accounts. You can assign the sales reps to the assigned rep in Sugar, and then you can send quotes to invoices, estimates, sales orders, or purchase orders, and then the corresponding sales history, once it's produced in QuickBooks, to then come back into Sugar. So you can see all the sales receipts, sales orders, estimates, credit memos, and purchase orders. If you have inventory levels or customer-specific pricing set up in QuickBooks, you can sync those over into Sugar as well. Also within the integration, there's a lot of advanced configuration options. I won't go into those quite yet, but just to give you an example, if you didn't want to, say if you were mapping from a certain time value, you had QuickBooks for over 15 years, but you only want to map them for the last 10 years. So you can pick certain date ranges. So you can say, I only want to see the sales history from 2012 and beyond, if you weren't so concerned about some of the other data in there as well. Like I said, we also have complete custom mapping built into the integration, so you can map your specific fields from QuickBooks or Sugar to the fields in the other application. Whereas with some of the other integrations, if you wanted to change different field mappings, you would have to pay the provider to sort of code that change, whereas we have complete mapping built in to the product as it relates to customers, vendors, sales history, line items, inventory, and so forth. Here is a dashboard. Because you're getting in the data from the related QuickBooks application and syncing it into the CRM, you can now report on that data and add it to your dashboard. So for example, if a rep wanted to see their top customers based on sales data from QuickBooks, just because they want to have them at the top of their mind when they're following up with their clients, and that's a dashboard you can set up in the CRM without needing to interact with anyone in the accounting department. If you want to track sales history by product or by quarter or year over year reports, you can also leverage that data in here as well. As you can see here, there's some quotes. The quotes will stay in Sugar until you have changed them, and we'll go into that in a second, until you've changed the status to a QuickBooks specific status. And the integration will install some modules in Sugar, and we'll show you that in the account, but it'll bring in sales history. If you have multiple shipping addresses, it'll bring that in. If you have product price level lists, it'll bring that in as well. So we go into an account and show you what that looks like in the CRM. So here is a customer account. You have your billing address, your shipping address, and again, you get to determine which one you'd want to be the master. You have a bunch of different fields. These fields could be pulling over directly from QuickBooks. As I mentioned, we have custom mapping. With the integration, you'll also get a custom field that is a roll-up field based on the last sales date from that customer. So when you're looking at your customer list, you can filter based on that. So if someone hasn't purchased anything in 6 months, you can do a filter, an account filter based on last sale date. In this case, Cafe Q hasn't bought anything in close to 6 months, so it's probably a good time to reach out to them and see kind of what's happened. In addition, we also have some roll-up fields that will roll up the year-to-date sales based on the sales transactions, and it will sync over the open balance as well as the credit limit from QuickBooks as well. Below, you'll see all the different components of the integration. So you'll see the sales transactions here. You'd actually have the ability to drill in to the actual sales transaction and see the line items directly in here. So you can see how much it was for, when it was shipped, what the sale total was, the reference number. If you're doing shipping, if you're doing integrations to FedEx or UPS and you have the tracking number as a line item, you can view that in here directly as well. So you can drill down into the actual invoices without having to need any interaction with the accounting. We're also breaking it down by sales history by product or service. So you can see specifically how much of each that you have sold to this particular client. And if you have multiple ship-tos, those can sync over to here as well, and those can be leveraged on when you're doing the quote in the sales order as well. As you can see here, there are some quotes. There are 5 of 6, and you can see here by the stage that these have been sent over to QuickBooks. So we'll go ahead and drill down into that. So here is a quote inside of Sugar. So the way that the integration is designed is it'll pull in all of your inventory items directly in the Sugar product catalog, and it gives you the ability then to either search from a defined product catalog, either via product categories. So you can see all the different items here that are pulling in from QuickBooks. You can also type them in directly. So if you know the verbiage, you know the names. As you can see here, everything with cabinet is going to show up as you start to limit, as you start to type in the keywords and limit, it will limit the choices for you. So it's a dynamic search as well. And then as you can see here, you can put in the product. It'll default to whatever tax code you have set up in QuickBooks as well as the price. You can give your reps the ability to do discounts, or you can not give them the ability based on roles in Sugar. And then you could also use workflows for things like that. So if someone gives a 20% discount on an item, then it could potentially go through an approval process in order for that to flow into QuickBooks. The way that the quotes stay in Sugar are in the Sugar stages. So those stages are kind of are up to you. So they could be, sent, reviewing, negotiating, needs approval, what have you. Once they're ready to move, say you adjust the quote, change the line items a bit, and they say, okay, we're ready to move forward on this, all you would have to do is change it to either a sales order or an invoice. And then once you click Save, the QuickBooks integration would then trigger to send the sales order or the invoice directly into the CRM or directly into QuickBooks as well. So that's basically, at a high level, the functionality of the integration. It's a productivity integration, so it'll sync data both ways. It'll eliminate or decrease the amount of duplicated efforts that are happening between sales and accounting. The one other component that I just wanted you to be aware of is we have this other product that's a Sugar portal. It's a Sugar customer portal. So the fact that it works with all the different modules inside of Sugar. So if you wanted to give your customers access to their invoice data, you could do that through the Sugar QuickBooks integration, as well as our cash portal, which would give your customers a login so they can come in here and submit tickets if they want, so they can add a case, directly related to something. If they wanted to see what the recent invoice history was, they'd be able to view those details directly in here as well. There'd be a description pointing to what that invoice was, so long as you put that description in the QuickBooks invoice. So it basically allows you to give them somewhat of a limited access to Sugar via a portal as well. And then it also would allow them to, if they wanted to update their contact information, or maybe they wanted to update their account information, then you'd also be able to give them access to do that as well. And then lastly, we also work with the activity stream inside of Sugar. So you can come in and someone can say, hey, we just sent you your invoice. Please review it and approve it when you get a chance. And so you can actually chat with some clients directly through Sugar's activity stream as well. I guess we can open it to questions. What I was going to do is just go through the pricing really quickly. So depending on the version of QuickBooks that you have will determine the version of our integration that you have, and you can take a look at the matrix that Jesse provided in the webinar chat, or the handouts. But basically it ranges anywhere from $14.99. This would be QuickBooks Professional and QuickBooks Online, from $20 to $24.99 per year, and implementation costs typically vary based on the amount of volume of data that you have in both applications, or more so in QuickBooks. But yeah, it ranges from about $1,500 to $2,500 a year, depending on the version of QuickBooks. And so yeah, that's the pricing of the integration. Jesse, are there any? That's about all I had. Is there any questions or?
Yeah. So what kind of training is available that's offered when people purchase the integration and then have it implemented? How does that work?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I would recommend is buying an implementation package from us. The one thing I'll note is that the integration is really robust. We have hundreds of configuration options. So within that, it kind of requires somewhat intimate knowledge of both QuickBooks and Sugar. So within that implementation package, we would help you with sort of planning the integration in terms of how we understand how your business operates, how you wanted the integration to operate, and then we would make some recommendations based on how your business operates. So it wouldn't necessarily require you to have intimate Sugar knowledge, but just have knowledge on your business processes. And then from there, we'll make some recommendations. We'll implement the integration, install it, configure it, sync it with you to get some sign-off. And then once that's done, there's typically an hour or two worth of training where we walk you through sort of how to use the integration from a user perspective in terms of quotes and statuses and viewing sales transactions and things like that as well.
And then in your experience of all the integrations that we offer as a, you as an account executive, how popular is the QuickBooks integration in comparison to some of the other integrations that we're offering?
So I'd say it's the most popular integration. We probably have close to 150 companies, maybe a little bit less, using that. The other integrations that are somewhat popular are the Constant Contact, just because it's somewhat well known in the market. But QuickBooks is the #1 accounting system in the country, and it falls in line with Sugar because it's somewhat designed for small and medium-sized companies. And so, there's a big chunk of companies that are using both Sugar and QuickBooks, and we have a sizable amount of those clients as well. So it's definitely the most popular. We are seeing more popularity in our authorized.net integration, which I should just make a point of that we've added the ability to charge subscriptions in the CRM, start subscriptions related to a quote in the CRM. So if you're in a service business in terms of selling subscriptions, we're seeing an uptick in interest in our authorized.net integration because you can set the schedules and payments directly in the CRM related to an account record without having to leave the CRM. So that's starting to get some legs, and the combination of the two, being able to charge credit cards in the CRM and then send that information to QuickBooks as a paid invoice is shown some interest as well.
So there was one more question. So you had mentioned that the integration is providing visibility between sales and accounting. If you've got the integration running in your instance of Sugar, does everybody have visibility into this, or can you determine who gets to see the QuickBooks data inside of Sugar?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's kind of up to you. This is more so Sugar features than the integration. So within Sugar, you can still leverage the standard Sugar role and team functionality that you'd be able to leverage with Sugar standalone. So our modules will then be applied to the role management. So if you don't want people to see, the sales history or people to see certain things like that, as you can see here, all the QuickBooks related modules show up in here. So you can say, I don't want certain people to have access to this, and then you can assign users to those roles directly in here. So that's one way of limiting, say, a certain section of the integration from a group of people. You can also assign teams to accounts and to records in Sugar, and what that allows you to do is separate, say, salesperson A's accounts from salesperson B's account as well. So the team and role functionality is what would help you limit that from certain users.
All right, great. Thanks, Jake. Yeah, that was the last question. So, we'll follow up with everyone that attended and registered for the webinar, and we can get you more time with Jake or your appropriate account executive here at Fabius to, just get some feedback from you about the integration and Sugar in general. And so look for that email in the next day, as well as, we'll send you a copy of this recording. So if you need to share it with your team or your manager or something like that, you'll be able to do that. So thanks again, Jake. And thanks to everyone for attending. And be sure to check out one of our webinars in the upcoming future. Everyone have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.